Hey, I'm Tommy Ellison, and this is Senior Moments. I can't tell you what I had for breakfast this morning, but I remember every detail of that time I came this close to being suspended my senior year in high school, just 3 weeks before graduation. So stick around. This is proof that some things from a misspent youth just don't fade away. Let's go. Well, hey guys, Tommy Ellison here, and welcome to Senior Moments. I appreciate you tuning in live if you are, and otherwise watching the replay. Sandra and I just got back from the beach with grandkids, and we are worn out. So you that have grandchildren probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, the title for today's episode is called Hip to Be Tall. Hip to Be Tall. You guys remember the song by Huey Lewis and the News back, I don't know, several decades ago called Hip to Be Square? You remember that song? Well, I've often asked myself the question, what about tall? Is it hip to be tall? Well, not so much, especially when you're young. And yeah, it's pretty cool when you're tall and you're trying to watch a parade from the back row of the crowd, or, you know, it's great to be called on to put the star on the Christmas tree because you're the tallest person in the room or in the family. And yes, it's great when you're changing out light bulbs and you only need to step on that first rung of that rickety little step ladder you have to use to perform such menial tasks as changing light bulbs. But well, it's not always great to be tall. And, well, let me tell you my story. And first of all, you've got to picture me when I was 10 years old. It's a little different story, you know, when you're 10 years old. And, well, allow me to share you my story. It's 1961. I'm 10 years old, and I'm trying to buy a movie ticket at the old Fairfield Theater on Gary Avenue. Those of you who grew up in Fairfield know exactly where I'm talking about. And, well, it's not hip to be square at the Fairfield Theater when you're 10 years old. And, well, let me elaborate. Every Saturday afternoon, I had this routine. I'd take my 25-cent allowance down to the Fairfield Theater. And I know a quarter doesn't sound like much, but, you know, back then it was like an entertainment strategy. You know, it was a plan, and you had a way of financing your plan. And here's how it worked. Being 10 years old, I'd ask for a child's ticket, 15 cents. Then that would leave me a dime, right? Do the math. Suicide at the drink counter, 5 cents. And that was, for those of you who don't know what a suicide is, perhaps I should explain. That's when the person at the fountain, soda fountain, fills up the cup with ice and then puts Coke, Orange, Sprite, grape, and everything else that she might have on the fountain that day into one cup. This is not dental health in a cup, by the way. So a suicide is all those mixed together. And, of course, that was a nickel. And then that last nickel, well, that was for the big-time candy bar. It was a big-time candy bar, not the Hollywood, which was the dark chocolate. The big-time, you know, was the caramel and peanuts. And basically it was kind of like a ripoff of the Snickers, but it was somewhat generic. I guess they were cousins who played, offensive line there. But there was a catch, because here's the deal. At 10 years old, I was already, let's just say, supersized. And when I stepped up to the ticket booth, the lady behind the glass always gave me that look, you know. She would you know the one. It's kind of like the church lady on Saturday Night Live meets the IRS auditor look. And she would say, son, are you sure you're under 12? Same question every single Saturday. And I got so tired of trying to explain to her that I was only 10 years old. And meanwhile, on some occasions, she would call up the manager and he would come up to the front. And, all the while this is going on, people are behind me waiting to buy a ticket. There wasn't but one place to buy the ticket at the Fairfield Theater. And Tarzan's beginning to swing through the jungle on the inside, and I'm stuck in this, what I would call a pre-TSA interrogation at the front door. And I'm telling you, the Fairfield Theater, they invented the security checkpoint before airports even dreamed of it. I mean, this woman was rigid. And, well, in most cases, the manager would let me in. But after doing this for a year or so, finally the manager decided, he said, son, from now on, I want you to bring your birth certificate if you want a child's ticket. A birth certificate for a movie. Now, my mom wasn't real excited about me, walking around in Fairfield with the only copy of my birth certificate stuffed in my back pocket, next to the pack of baseball cards that I might have there. Or chances are I would, throw the pants in the washing machine unbeknownst to her. And next thing you know, she's washed my only birth certificate. But so many Saturdays, I had to run back home. It was about 4 blocks. Fetch that official document, trot back down to Gary Avenue, and wave it like a passport to get into the movies. It was embarrassing. It was tiring. And it was a lot of work just to, watch Tarzan wrestle crocodiles, or to see Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello dancing on the beach in a bikini. Not Frankie, but Annette. Although I didn't really quite get into bare belly buttons back then. I'm 10 years old, remember that. So anyway, 2 years later, I was old enough for the adult ticket, 75 cents. Now, my allowance never increased, which meant my carefully planned economy, my plan to finance my entertainment strategy, the movie ticket, the suicide, the big-time candy bar, they all collapsed like Wall Street in 1929. So what was the takeaway? Well, maybe this. It's not always hip to be tall. But if you survive long enough, you realize that the real big time wasn't the candy bar. It was the movies, the cartoons, the cereals, the cowboy cereals that would come on. And sometimes they even gave away, prizes in the theater. I can remember Cousin Cliff coming to the Fairfield Theater one afternoon, and he gave 3 or 4 kids up on the stage, got them up on the stage, and gave them all like 4 saltine crackers. And when he said go, they had to eat all of the saltine crackers, and the first one that could whistle would win a silver dollar. Imagine that. Well, these were the stories that I get to remember, the stories I get to share with you. And, well, these are the stories that you somehow or another, when you reach my age, seem to carry with you the rest of your life. And, well, and maybe the after effects of the big time candy bar too. But that said, thanks for watching Senior Moments. We come live at 5 on Sunday afternoon. And hey, this guy that's fixing the show up here, he's the handsome guy. He's going to tell you what you should do before you scroll away from this real or from this live cast. So pay close attention now. And again, thanks for watching Senior Moments. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Well, hey, thanks for spending a few minutes with me on Senior Moments. If you enjoyed the ride, be sure and tap that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. I'll be back soon with more stories from a misspent youth, and maybe some of yours too.